Welcome to August, where we will have a Leo solar eclipse on August 12th, 2026, exact at 1:35 p.m. Eastern Time, so be sure and adjust for your location. The Leo new moon solar eclipse is occurring at 20 degrees of Leo 1 minute in your chart. You would identify where you have 20 degrees of Leo by house placement, as this is where a big, bold, new life beginning is occurring. And this energy is fiery, inspired, bold. You could finally feel ready to do something you've been thinking about throughout this year. You might finally feel you have the energy to take it forward. This is a solar eclipse that brings about fast-moving changes, especially in the fire sign of Leo. And so there's going to be important developments that start with this solar eclipse. Now, in your own chart, you want to give this a 5-degree orb on either side. So you could go back to 15 degrees of Leo and then go forward to 25 degrees of Leo, giving it a total 10-degree orb span. And this is where the energy is concentrated. Now, that's important to note because Leo is fixed fire. It is a bonfire, and it's where the energy is meant to be fixated in order to bring something to life. And because this is a new moon solar eclipse, there's new energy coming in to ignite it and to add to the fire, add more fuel to the fire. So pay attention to where you feel motivated, what you want to do in a fresh way. Maybe this is a renewal for you where the energy has been leaking or lagging, something hasn't been coming together, and now with the solar eclipse, there is a fresh flame in the fire. There's a sense of, yes, this is what I want, and I feel it. I feel it strongly, and I feel it internally. Now, what I'm seeing as I say this is that the Leo energy is connected to both the solar plexus and the heart chakra, but I'm seeing the energy start moving up from the root chakra through the sacral into the solar, into the heart chakra. So there is a lot going on here in the lower chakras that you might feel deeply affirms how you've been changing and evolving this year. And I'm feeling that strongly because you can see how we have 4 planets in Leo: Mercury, Jupiter, Moon, and Sun. And they are connecting with this Saturn, now retrograde at 14 degrees of Aries, and this Neptune also retrograde at 4 degrees of Aries. You can see that the Mercury and Jupiter are in a trine, have been in a trine to Neptune, and are now moving to a trine to this Saturn. And the Sun and the Moon are in a separating trine to Saturn. So these planets in Leo, fire signs, are still connecting with these 2 planets in Aries, fire sign. And these are the energies of what you've been newly initiating this year. Because back in February, these 2 were conjunct at 0 degrees of Aries, signifying an important new beginning, new intentions, new potentials and possibilities that have been slowly coming to life, slowly being formulated, structured, stabilized, new dreams coming up to your conscious awareness. And even though they're in Aries, which is typically a fast-moving, get it fast signature, these are slow-moving outer planets that have required you to take your time and continue to feed that intentionality. So you haven't been able to rush to the new beginnings. Maybe they have been very slow to appear. Maybe you felt like, is it happening? Is it coming together? What am I really focusing on and building? Is it truly what I want? These Aries planets are now in a reflective state of checking in with what you're moving towards and what you're creating. But here in the solar eclipse chart, all this Leo energy is saying it's time to go, it's time to move. And so I feel like these energies in Aries have been bringing us into that root chakra reprogramming energy, where we've been reprogramming our frequency to feel stronger and more confident at this time in our lives, to feel grounded and rooted, to not rely on the fight or flight unconscious energies that Aries can be in, but rather it's reprogramming the root chakra. And then I feel this energy going into, again, that solar and heart chakra, declaring what you want, what you desire, and feeling strong in doing so, especially because of how there's so much fire in this chart that's trining each other, that this is where new chapters are beginning and coming to life based on the work you've been doing, the intention and dreams you've been holding, where you're trusting the divine timing of it all and continuing to grow and develop into more of your true self, your authentic self. And so with the strong Leo energy and with this being a Leo solar eclipse, things can change quickly because of the work, focus, and effort you've been investing this year. Here in August, you may feel how you have changed and evolved, and the eclipse is going to launch you forward, take you forward into a new chapter and a new beginning based on what you desire and what you want. So you could have a sense too that new creative endeavors are coming to light. Maybe you're feeling stronger and more confident in who you are. The Leo energy supports determination, staying the course, sticking with something, especially something that you really want, and ensuring that you get it. This is energy that I also feel is going to support doing something new and different that you've been thinking about, dreaming about, and contemplating. And now you could finally be ready to say something, communicate, plan, put yourself out there, because this Mercury is now in Leo, is feeling stronger and clearer in the words that you're ready to express. And it could have been that you've been in a place of figuring out a plan or figuring out, everything that needs to come together. This Mercury was in Cancer for an extended amount of time back in June and July, and was also retrograde in July. And so now this Mercury is not only supported, but Mercury is under the presence of Jupiter, which brings spiritual protection for these new endeavors and is actually being amplified by this Jupiter that also says, go for it. Take a risk, follow what lights you up, trust where you are inspired and motivated. This is very beautiful, forward-moving communications, planning, projects, something that maybe you need to declare. Maybe there's something you're ready to teach or you want to offer, put it out into the world. There is beautiful support here for this Mercury. Mercury is also now activating the basket configuration that we've been talking about since July. And Mercury is now then receiving the support of Uranus at 5 degrees of Gemini. That is a very exciting sextile with surprises, new interesting facts, something changing in the plans that can improve it. This Mercury is trining Neptune at 4 degrees of Aries retrograde, bringing in that intuitive hit of what to say, how to go about something, aligning with what feels right. And then Mercury here at 5 degrees of Leo is still in an opposition to this Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius retrograde. The opposition was exact before the solar eclipse, but the opposition to Pluto would have brought up the fears of saying something, of taking a risk, the fear of expressing yourself, the fear of being bold or courageous. And this Pluto represents not only our fears, but the extremes in worst case scenarios that the mind can conjure up. And so there could be a part of a process here where you're facing those fears. And to put it realistically, that's just part of being human. That's just part of our human experience, where it's actually quite smart to consider the fears or other potentials that maybe seem quite scary. But with this configuration of Mercury being so supported by Jupiter, Uranus, and Neptune, the fears are going to be passing. And oftentimes those scary thoughts or, what would happen if scenarios that we can move through, it's simply part of your energy wanting to keep you safe and wanting to protect you. It's kind of like just having the plan. Okay, if the worst case scenario happens, this is what I would do, or this is what would come up next. But with this energy, it's going to pass by. And it could be that the fears are really loud and really big, and then you wake up the next morning and they're small or they've cleared out. And you're like, I don't even care about that anymore. I've got to do the thing. I have to move this forward. I have to express myself, communicate, put myself out there. This is a supportive risk. This is a desire to do something new, and it is beautifully aligned with what the cosmos is directing you to now. So just know that it could feel like your mind is both the angel on your shoulder and the devil on your shoulder. But this is going to be where at the end of the day, I think something is going to happen and you're going to be so glad you took that risk, or you were bold, or you put yourself out there. You're going to see it pay off in big ways. Happiness, joy, a sense of satisfaction, and it can even light up the heart and the solar plexus even more. This can be a celebration that you did something new and different and it paid off. So now let's move over here to Venus. Venus is now in Libra, one of her home signs that she loves to be in. She is social, charming, engaging. She is a great conversationalist. And this is where she's finally ready to say things that have been on her mind. Venus in Libra is where you're going to be able to communicate more of what you've been thinking through, figuring out and contemplating. And she is in a beautiful sextile here to this Mercury being highly favored at this eclipse. And Venus is bringing in the people to interact with, partner with, who you need to have a conversation with. Venus is stronger now. She is still in an ongoing square to this Mars. And this Mars is at 0 degrees of Cancer, but it is in a separating square as Venus moves forward. They are 5 degrees apart, and throughout the rest of August, Venus will continue on through Libra. But she's also in a square to this Mars, who has feelings and new things he's realizing about himself. He's maybe connecting with parts of his emotional world that he's feeling more personally, that perhaps he's been avoiding. But this Mars is meant to be courageous and go into those parts of his inner world and to tap into those feelings, even when they are uncomfortable. Now, there's a lot going on in this chart, but something that I have to also highlight about this particular Mars squaring Venus is that they're in a T square. Mars is in a T square to this Neptune at 4 degrees of Aries too. And so Mars isn't feeling as strong or as certain because he's now moving through some emotions that he didn't realize were there. And Mars squaring this Neptune can feel like he's discouraged and he wants to give up. He doesn't have the energy that he needs to be brave. And I feel that this Mars is where we need to just be quieter in listening to ourselves and to what is being triggered and stirred up. Thankfully, Mars is in a sextile to this Chiron at 0 degrees retrograde of Taurus, which is stabilizing him and providing support for what he needs to realize. It brings him back into his body. It brings him into the present moment. This Mars in Cancer goes to the past. He goes to past situations that he didn't win. He was not the hero. He was not the champion. And he's processing previous experiences and memories that felt defeating. And here we have this Chiron that is helping him get a grip on what's real and true, and to not stay in past timelines. But these past timelines would involve the feminine, relationships, communications. I feel like this Mars in this T-square is understanding what he didn't do well previously. And it feels more personal. And so he's in these previous timelines, filtering things out, feeling into them. And it could be deflating. But it's interesting because with all of this Leo energy and all of this Aries energy, all the fire sign energy, he's got to get over it. Like, there's got to be movement here. There's things where you can't just sit on it, on the past. This is the universe saying, now it's time to move ahead. Look at what you've learned. Look at how you've grown. Don't repeat the same patterns, and let's get on with life. And so just know that that could be quite part of the story here, or an impression that you're feeling around the solar eclipse. But it's more important to note that this Venus in Libra is beautifully strengthened. Because even though she's still in an ongoing dialogue with Mars, she's telling Mars it's time to move on and have a more balanced approach. Venus is in an air grand trine with Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius retrograde, and she's trining Uranus at 5 degrees of Gemini. So this is an air grand trine, which is way sexier than just saying a triangle. And she is being lit up and empowered with new important relationships, partnerships, collaborations, and conversations that are divinely timed. This energy supports new connections, new relationships showing up that transform you, that signify how you're ready to do relational energies differently and in a new way. It also is quite exciting, buzzy. There's things here that's like new conversation topics or things you explore and discuss in a whole new light. In fact, this whole chart actually supports new love connections, partnerships, attractions, and desires coming up in this cycle, even though Mars is a little bit of a soggy pants and is kind of feeling maybe even sorry for himself. Everything else here is propelling you forward into new realizations around connections that matter, connections that are balanced and equal. Venus in Libra is about equal exchange. It's also being equal in your feminine and your masculine. This could also bring people into your world who are powerful and who are very different than people you've met before. Now, this is important to note because the Leo energy is about attraction, romance, desire, love connections. And because it's a fixed sign, it's focused on your type or the types of people you've always been attracted to, you've always drawn in, simply because of what you are unconsciously magnetizing in with your frequency. But this is about attracting in new people, different people, people you wouldn't normally cross paths with. Like maybe you have very different worlds or very different backgrounds. Maybe you have things going on in your life that make your everyday realities very different. But this connects the dots here. There's things that come together and powerfully evolve how you relate to others. And so it is quite new. It is quite fascinating and different. But wait, we're not done here, because in this chart, because there's so many dynamic aspects happening in the early degrees of each sign. Okay, so you have Pluto at 3 degrees, Neptune at 4 degrees, Chiron at 0, Uranus at 5, Mars at 0, this Mercury, even this Jupiter in the early degrees of Leo, and this Venus at 5 of Libra. There's a lot of conversations here in this chart, meaning there's a lot of aspects happening. And we actually have, in addition to this air grand trine and the T-square, there's actually 2 T-squares. I'm going to get to that in a minute. The T-squares, we also have 2 kites. And the kite that I'm seeing right now is the one that is formed including Venus, Neptune, Pluto, and Uranus. There you go, through the magic of cinematography, which is what this is. There you have your kite. And the kite is forming here, pointing to this Neptune. That's because of the sextile from Pluto to Neptune, the sextile from Uranus to Neptune, and then the opposition from this Venus. Venus will move on, and when she moves on, there's no more air grand trine, there's no more kite to this Neptune. And so with Venus here, this brings in relational dynamics based on who you are becoming, based on your new sense of self, a new beginning in your life, going back to that new chapter that started with the conjunction between Saturn and Neptune in February. This is now seeing people, meeting and interacting with individuals who are seeing you in a new way or who are connecting with you because of your own personal evolution and changes on your spiritual path. And the opposition between Venus and Neptune can bring up idealizing someone or putting them on a pedestal or only seeing them in a higher light. The opposition can also attract and bring in soulmates. And yet this Neptune in Aries is the beginning of a new cycle that is meant to close out previous karmic loops and previous energies you were holding that brought about certain lessons or healing themes. This is now a new day is dawning. A new experience has been initiated and is being embodied. And Venus in Libra brings forth those connections of others who match your frequency. And again, they're very different than people you've met before. But there are shared interests, shared themes, perhaps maybe even things that you will discuss in the air signs. You'll discuss and have some really good conversations about what you want in your life next or who you are, as well as what you've been through, what you've learned. The air signs are always about communication and sharing. This Venus is also balanced in Libra, and so even though there can be an idealizing energy with the opposition to Neptune, Venus is more ready to see people for who they are, right? The pros and cons, the good days and the bad days, you at your best and then you having a hard time. She understands that that's how we're all composed. We all have all those energies within us, and she sees it from an objective position of that's who we all are. So there can be some new individuals who arrive in this solar eclipse cycle that are different than people you've met before, but you have a shared frequency and you have more in common than meets the eye. This can also be great for friendships, allies, clients, collaborations of all kinds, especially in business. You might be ready to partner with someone or do something together as a duo, and it just makes sense and lines up. So there is going to be an increase here in relationships, and so pay attention to who shows up and why. So that is just one of the kite configurations in this chart. Let me show you the second kite. So with my high-tech budget, you can now see these are purple lines revealing the second kite that goes to this Mercury conjunct Jupiter that we've already been discussing. This again supports those bold ideas, creative endeavors, and new starts that you're compelled to put energy to that will launch and take off. And this can occur quickly in the fire signs. This is also something you're meant to pay attention to, something that you could find has a natural increase in energy to it. And it is spiritually guided and protected, since that Mercury is traveling behind Jupiter, but in the Jupiter bubble that wants you to do something courageous that is also uniquely you. I feel this is a strong activation of inspiration, motivation, and the light body being more abundant. You could feel like, I have to do this. I have to say this. I have to communicate this. I need to bring this plan together, and I'm not sure why. I'm not even sure why I have to. I just know that I do. And that could be the Jupiter presence guiding you to do something bigger than you would normally see or choose. Jupiter is breaking you out of some of the limitations of our linear mind and of our logical thought process. This is a bigger idea, a bigger notion than what you would normally think of. And remember, this Mercury is in that basket where Mercury is also getting support from Uranus. Mercury is trining this Neptune. And so there's a sense here of what direction to move towards. And maybe you feel you don't have to have a why. You don't have to fully understand it. Mercury often wants the details and specifics, but this just could feel so good and light you up that you are moving forward with a beautiful protected presence that is signaling, this is the thing to do. This is what I need to trust. This is where I have to take action. And in the fire signs of Leo, it is action oriented. So this could be quite a busy time. For some people, especially in the Leo house or houses in your chart, there could be a lot going on now that all of a sudden appears, and yet it has an energy all its own. It just has its own life force carrying you forward. And in the fixed signs, it is sustainable. It's reliable. And so this could be something presenting itself in your world that now occupies a lot of your time and attention. It also feels like something that you're meant to take care of and focus on. Of course, this always depends on how you experience the Leo energies. If you have a lot of fire in your chart or a lot of air in your chart, this is going to be invigorating. This is going to be like, yes, finally, I've waited for this. I've been needing this to happen and to move forward. I've been patient long enough. I feel like this is going to launch a lot of things for many people. This is meant to take you forward. This is also where the energy moves quickly because of this bigger aspect in play. Because of the kite signifies a liftoff. What you say has a lot of power right now. Where your mind is going is directing this kite to a liftoff. And with Jupiter here, those bigger dreams are meant to be pursued. You're meant to pursue something. You're meant to take it forward. And again, it's going to feel supported. It will be determined. There'll be determination there. There'll be strength. And there also could be something that just locks in. Like it's that locked in, I've got to do this. This is correct. Here it goes. Now I mentioned how there are actually 2 T-squares in this solar eclipse chart as well. The first T-square is the one with Mars squaring Venus and squaring Neptune. The second T-square is actually with Chiron squaring Mercury and squaring Pluto. And so the T-square is also in play here. Mercury was in an exact square to this Chiron about 2 days before the eclipse is exact. And the T-square with Chiron and Pluto is those worst fears scenarios that I mentioned earlier, with Pluto opposing Mercury, and then both squaring this Chiron in Taurus is not feeling good enough. Who am I to take this risk? Who am I to have this dream? I don't have what it takes. I don't have the money. I don't have the finances. I don't feel ready. Chiron in Taurus could also make you feel that it's all happening too fast. I don't have a grip on this. I don't feel stable yet. And so there could be some things coming up here internally that are making these worries and doubts even bigger. But as this Mercury moves closer to Jupiter, those inner worries and concerns, it's like the private stress, starts to get smaller because Mercury moves closer to Jupiter, and there's now new understandings of what those personal limitations and fears have been trying to show you. Because part of what I sense with this Leo solar eclipse and all this focus on both Mercury and Venus is that it's okay to show up differently now. It's okay to be a new version of yourself and to not be stuck in where you've been or who you have been. People are ready to see a new version of you. Leo is what is visible, what is viewed, what is seen. It's in the spotlight. It's how you show up and present yourself. There could be a new style emerging here, a new style in your personal appearance, hair, clothing, how you style yourself. That could be part of what is coming forward. There could just be some new talents or gifts you want to share, things you want to do differently, and fears around presenting those to others in a new way. This could be a grand reveal of your hidden talents, of things you do that people didn't know you were good at, and then having the fears and doubts about that. So as we go through, all these big aspects happening with a solar eclipse, which brings about significant changes, fast-moving developments, I feel that even though the solar eclipse is happening here at 20 degrees of Leo, which is significant, there's so much energy with this Mercury that it's looking at how your mind is holding you back. And are you ready to be more brave in your thoughts and communications? Are you ready to say what you need to say or express yourself in a new way? Are you ready to be more direct, clear, and strong in your words, in your language? And that opposition to Pluto and the square to Chiron is testing these parts of yourself that you're working with and perhaps demonstrating for the first time in your life. But there's so much encouragement here to move forward and move ahead and to move into this next version of yourself that perhaps the mind has been slow to get there. I'm trying to summarize this, and basically, whatever you initiate and begin now that you're passionate about, that you love, that lights you up, that allows you to feel excited about your life, it brings in renewal to your creative spirit, and it just helps you feel positive about your journey. Whatever you initiate and begin now, it's going to pay off. It's going to lead to fortuitous developments, especially if you are bold and you take a risk and you require your mind to be on board. Even if there's fear, even if there's worry, that's just part of the human experience. We all have that. But overall, this is an energy of forward development. It definitely supports romance, love, dating, attraction. It supports new connections and new relationships coming in. This can beautifully help with divine unions. This can be a time of power couples matching up and meeting up. This is bringing in new love frequencies. Because when that Leo energy is really in the heart and in the solar plexus, there's a desire for love. And we need more love on the planet now. So it's almost like more people pairing up and coming together. Where Venus says, yes, it's time for that. It adds more love onto the planet. And it grounds it in. These are new connections, new developments. These are energies that can go the distance. These are also love frequencies that can be life-changing. There is fun here with the Leo energies. There is a sense of let's go have some fun. The energy can be very supportive for the inner child, for doing something that brings you joy, that makes you laugh, that allows you to shake off worries of the world and connect with your own personal needs to enjoy life. If you're currently in a partnership, marriage, or romantic connection, this can bring in new things that you enjoy doing together, new areas of your relationship where you open up and share, or you just feel that the heart chakra is expanding between you. This can, again, invigorate passion in the connection, and it can also take your relationship to new places. We haven't had this kind of energy signature in a long time, but it does support love, romance, creativity, and more ways of enjoying people, enjoying each other. Now, if you have any planets or points in the early degrees of Sagittarius, specifically between 0 to 9 degrees of Sagittarius, so basically the first decan of Sagittarius, any planets here would be creating what's called the Star of David or a grand sextile. And this would light up your life and your world at this time. This would be a Leo solar eclipse that is connecting you to a lot of energy, momentum, and expansion. So again, any planets or points at 0 to 9 degrees of Sagittarius. I'm saying 0 to 9 because Jupiter's at 9 degrees, so you're having a Jupiter trine. There are big developments happening for you with this cycle. And the Leo solar eclipse could be changing your life in some really big ways. I would say that with this particular Leo solar eclipse, you would be looking at how your world shifts over the next 6 months. That's the typical time span that we give every eclipse. But with all the fire energy here, and of course all the air sign energy, there's going to be fast moving developments. Things just clicking, connecting, taking off. It's almost like having one conversation with someone that moves your life in a totally new direction. And not everyone can handle that very well. I mean, this is Leo, which is a fixed sign, but there's a willingness here for life change or for something new to show up. There's a desire within us to have some new openings that we've been waiting for, again, especially in the solar plexus and the heart chakra. So there's going to be some fortuitous developments because of what you say, express, and share, because of the people you meet. Overall, this is a very positive solar eclipse that you might look back on August 2026 and realize, wow, yeah, that really brought me to life in a whole new way. That's where things started to change for the better. That's where I had some breakthroughs and some new developments or some things that I finally put into motion because there was support for it. So without the risk of sounding like a broken record, although I already do, this is meant to be a time when you go for it. You go for it, you say yes, you do the thing, you understand that it's spiritually guided and spiritually protected. You see that there's something that's meant to occur now, and that there is beautiful, loving support for showing up in the world with more of your own divine essence and divine trust in who you are. So we got a big Leo solar eclipse here. Again, you look at the house where you have 20 degrees of Leo. That's the area of life where the new beginning is occurring. I'll be talking about this more on my podcast every Wednesday. And this is a new eclipse that not only initiates new chapters in our lives, but it also takes us to the upcoming Pisces lunar eclipse on August 28th. I'll be talking about that shortly. But make the most of whatever you're feeling the energy rise within you. And I hope this brings about awesome developments in your life. As always, I appreciate your comments. Thank you for anything you share below this video. It definitely supports this beautiful community and all the high vibrational people who are here, who are conscious and intentional on their path. Thank you as well for subscribing to my YouTube channel. And thank you for your likes and shares, for sharing this video with others who could benefit from this information as well. Wishing you a beautiful Leo solar eclipse, friends. I'll see you back here soon.